Awesome. Welcome, everybody, to today's Expert Access. I am Dr. Glenn T. Miller. I'm your business community manager here at Sunshine Enterprises. We do the Expert Access series in order to make sure that you have familiarity with some of our service providers and coaches that you have access to once you get through the Community Business Academy at Sunshine Enterprises. Today's guest speaker is one of my favorites, more than a coach. This is leadership exemplified. I am happy to introduce you guys to Nyerere Billups, who is the founder of the Growfessor LLC. Leadership and human potential, firm focus, helping entrepreneurs and teams grow from the inside out. Nair here has more than 30 years in corporate strategy and leadership. He's developed a people-centered approach to business growth that challenges founders to look beyond operations and examine the most important asset in the company, and that is the leaders themselves. So I can only give you guys a brief. I mean, if you've done the research on them, you know the value that we are in for today. But instead of me just rambling on, because again, I could probably talk about the work and the changes that I've seen him done and the amount of knowledge. As a matter of fact, Professor will get on a call for a quick check-in and will be on a call for 2, 3 hours, which is what just happened the other day. Um, how about you take a moment to introduce yourself to the people?
Look, I appreciate that, Glenn. Look, I think what you said is enough to get us started, right? I think a lot of times when we are in these settings, we spend a lot of time talking about what we've done, but that doesn't necessarily talk to you about how it applies to the conversation that we're having now, right? And so I think kind of maybe what I want to maybe kind of say two things to kind of start this off. One, shout out to my childhood friend Tim Hullen, who's on here. We have been friends since we were 7 in each other's weddings, each other's guy. So he's been in the guys chat like, hey, y'all should join this. So shout out to Tim. Appreciate you showing up, my brother. Second thing I want to say is this works best. Oh, I see Steve Carter on here too, another one of my childhood friends. This works best when y'all ask questions because then we get to get into not just the maybe the theory or the thought behind what I'm communicating, but we actually get a chance to in real time apply it to what you've got going on. And so maybe starting this out to sort of frame this is that I would say to maybe this conversation, I spent 30 years in corporate America, 25 years in corporate America, 5 years in academic research before that. And I'm in year 2, going on year 3 of me walking away from my own corporate gig and being in this entrepreneurship space. And so one of the things that I guess I'm going to start this conversation right here is that one of the things that I noticed is that when I came into this space, I was initially trying to transfer everything I had learned in corporate over into this space. There are some things that work well, and there are some things that were just not at all. And so part of this, I had to figure out what was what. And my sense is that a lot of programs around entrepreneurship teach you about the how-to of the work, how to do a business plan, right? How to manage your finances. A lot of these things are really good tactical skills that we need. I always look at that, and the first thing I kind of sort of sense is that, well, we're giving everybody the same stuff. Do we know it, that everybody's in the same place to receive the same stuff? And so for me, one of the things that's really important that when we're thinking about entrepreneurship is that we're thinking about ourselves. And I want to be clear about when I say thinking about ourselves, we've got to think about what is this thing about? And so if I was to say this, and maybe let's just use a florist, if you are into flowers and you decide you want to open up a flower shop, there's a lot of stuff to tell you about how to manage that business. right? What flowers to get, all of these steps. Nothing tells you about how to make sure you water yourself as you water your plants. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we see in this space of entrepreneurship is that there's this gap of consistently getting stuff to do, but nothing giving to you to help you manage the burnout, to help you manage the slowdown, to help you manage all the chaos that's going on. Let me give you a real example of what I mean when I say this. When I left corporate America and I had this big global job, so I was always in weird time zones. Or I say weird time zones is different time zones than my home base, and talking to folks all around the globe. In my head, I had built this schedule around sort of this clock of 8 to 5. As entrepreneurs, you all know that nothing about entrepreneurship is 8 to 5, unless that's just your store hours. But nothing about the whole thing is 8 to 5. Unlike your corporate job, most of your corporate job is 8 to 5. You need IT support. Well, that's going to happen between 8 to 5. You need to meet with finance, most likely 8 to 5, right? You need to go talk to. It's not that you can't have conversations offline, but it's not an entrepreneurship space where you may be emailing somebody back and forth at 11:30, right? You're up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get this website sort of now situated to it feels like you. One of the things I had to first sort of, I love this word unscripting, not only because I wrote a book around it, but we all get these scripts. I'll mention that in a second. But one of the scripts that I was running when I first walked out was trying to schedule things within 8 to 5, trying to figure out what I was going to do between 8 to 5, but always coming up on opportunities where, oh, this thing is from 6:30 to 8. This thing is Saturday afternoon. This thing is Sunday afternoon. Well, if I do 40 hours during the week, and then at the same time, I then say, oh, I want to go to this thing in the evening. I want to go to the, I'm going to run myself ragged. It was when I started to think about, wait a minute, I control what time I'm on. I control what I decide is going to be done on this day within this hours or what time. So I started to design my entire business model around, well, if I got this thing from 6 to 8:30 and I'm going to this conference this weekend, well, I'm not doing nothing on Thursday because I got to travel on Friday. I'm going to do something here on Wednesday. I'm going to do something. So I started to put the pieces together that made sense for me. And I think that is the most important lesson that I learned out the gate, which is how to make this time make sense for me. And I think that was one of the things that when you start to go down that path, the other things open up. What was breakfast? What was lunch? What was dinner? Well, in 8 to 5, lunch is from 12 to 2 or 12 to 1. Well, when you're on your own time, oh, look, I can work on this website, or I can just go grab something to eat. I don't got to check in with nobody. I don't got to clock in. So then it was like, well, what do I want to eat? Well, you know what? I feel like a fish sandwich right now. Well, it's 10:30 in the morning out here. So what? The fish don't care what time you eat it, right? Ain't no food is designed just for breakfast or just for lunch or just, and we line up to these scripts. And so as entrepreneurs, one of the first assessments I think we should do is, I think when we're making this transition to say, I'm about to leave this full-time thing and I'm about to dive into this space full-time, I think one of the questions we should ask us is, how do I use my own time right now? Because I think the first thing we got to figure out is that when you have a job, there's so much of what you do and so much of what happens that is geared around that job. Vacation, going to the doctor, going to get your license renewed, all of the things, grocery shopping, everything is around that. Well, when you move that off, none of those are, that's all gone. Everything that your old boss told you, every time you've got in trouble for being late to this meeting or this or that, all of those things are gone away. And now you are used to this system. The system is no longer there. There's no accountability to this system. And then you are now responsible for creating this thing that becomes, I like to sort of say it around this question. How do I want to spend my time? In running your business can't dominate your entire life because that means you give no time for yourself. It means you give no time to your family. And what is the true value of entrepreneurship if I can't do the things that I want to do? Now, the math needs the math. That the website has a cost, right? The photographer who comes out. The costs are there. These are the facts. But it really comes down to time. And here's why it comes down to time. Time is the only linear thing that exists. It does not stop. It does not care what's going on. It is agnostic to what's happening. This moment right now, this 1 second that we have right now, everywhere in the world is the same second. Although, if you're in Thailand, 13-hour time difference. 13-hour time difference just tells them what time it is right there. But in terms of time, this 1 second is the same 1 second everywhere. We're literally all alive at the exact same time if you're alive right now. Doesn't matter what date on the calendar, because time does not move towards any of those things. So as you pull into this space of entrepreneurship, time is your most profitable currency because the first part of this time is you got to give it to yourself. You got to be able to give the time to yourself. And so I'm going to pause here, but I want to make sure I bring this home sort of here so we get into some questions. But as an entrepreneurship, you and this linear concept of time is the most important thing you have. If you have 10 things on your to-do list, you know you can only do one at one time. Yeah, we may say we can chew and eat and do this meeting at the same time, but the moment I pick up my sandwich, you know what I'm not doing? No longer typing anymore. So we're not necessarily doing them at the same time. We are doing them in the same instance. We are doing them in the same setting, but we're not literally doing them at the same time. And so there's a space where if we was to do a time check and we was to ask each of you as entrepreneurs, how are you managing your time? The question becomes, what would you do?
Wow, I I think we got a lot of people, wheels are turning, and I can say right now I am over here taking notes. So I hope you guys are too. Yes, it's being recorded, but live note taking and reflection, I think is going to be tremendous here. So,
If I could, there's a comment that Doris put. Many
mhm,
tasks are completed by AI. Alleviate the stress, provides more free time.
yep.
That's somewhat true. And here's why it's somewhat true. If you don't know how to complete what AI is doing, you actually aren't getting better and learning yourself. So it actually doesn't provide more free time because you actually can't speak to something that's actually. Now, I think what Doris is saying here, and Doris, you can certainly jump off mic and sort of jump in here, but I think what Doris is saying that is that if you can use AI for the most menial tasks, the things you already know how to do, or something that you built the framework around that you now trust this, and I'm going to step into a word here, which is AI literacy. AI literacy is so important to me, particularly when I think about this comment that Doris put in here, which is why I'm sort of leaning in on this. Know how is so important. I can go in any room and do what I do because the way I use AI is built on me. I can look at it and be like, well, AI, this ain't right. You ain't even mentioned James Baldwin name, right? I would expect us to see James Baldwin at the top of this list. I actually go back and forth with AI and say, well, I know something. This is here. And so the free time becomes when your literacy of AI increases through your experience of working with it and validating that it's actually pulling from things that you know and being able to incorporate those things versus now. And I think that that is part of when we talk about AI. We need to remember that one, it is artificial. Two, meaning if it's artificial, it has some biases in it because who does it come from? And because it comes from humans. So we shouldn't defaultly accept everything that AI gives us without validating, without checking, without being curious, without asking those questions. And so as you do that, your relationship to how to use AI, and maybe Doris is speaking from an advanced sort of state, and I would say yes at an advanced state. But in this conversation, where I don't know that everybody's in advanced state, I don't want folks walking out of this conversation just jumping right into AI thinking, well, let me figure out what task AI can complete. versus understanding how do I manage my time? And as I'm managing my time, what are the tools around me that can help out? For instance, Tim Hullum, he's getting ready to sort of start a business. He sent it to the group chat some different options. And so he was asking his friends, hey, y'all give me some feedback on this, right? And so we was giving feedback. Oh, well, what about this? What about this? We were identifying some things that AI was not identifying for him. He could have took that and ran with it, submitted it all. But in terms of him saying, you know what, let me get some feedback from these guys I know, these guys I trust. And that feedback becomes something that AI can't give him because now the feedback is not artificial. The AI, it's real. It's folks who live in different cities. It's folks who are thinking about how would this work in their community. It's folks who apply their own businesses to say, hey, this would be that. Well, what about this? Hey, bro, don't you know how to do this? Hey, I don't see. These are all the things that have to come together. So as you're thinking through how you're using AI, you need to also think about yourself. Well, what do I know? How do I validate information? And you should be asking the question, how do I validate the information that I'm receiving from AI so that what I'm getting from AI is actually delivering what I think it should? It's helping me by actually bringing in some pieces that are maybe there's this assessment, this qualitative assessment. You don't need to know how to do all the qualitative assessment, but you should understand what the qualitative assessment is geared to design out, right? And so if you don't know what it should be putting out, well, whatever you get, you may not know what it is, right? And so I think as we think about how AI is, nothing about AI matters without starting with yourself first, which goes back to the original point. How are you using your time, right? What do you know about yourself? And so pulling in that space, let's make sure we think about AI as complementary to what we know and how it opens the gateway to, can it save me some time by giving me a faster way to respond to clients or whatever the case may be. But I don't want to respond to clients using this tool until I've validated it myself. I've asked it some questions, got some. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't. Well, AI wouldn't have used this word, and here's why. I literally talked to AI in that way. Like, why would you use this word? This makes no sense. I'm a black man. This means this for me, right? And so there's a space where I don't give AI no slack to tell me something where I'm going, bro, you're not about to tell me about my real life experience here.
Yeah, I think Doris responded saying that she's still learning. However, she's learning how to use it to adapt it to her personality. It sounds very much
Yep, yep.
like what you're saying. But I wanted to follow up with a question because we talked about time, and I think that is very key when it comes towards entrepreneurs and their journey. But you also mentioned in some of your literature that you shared with us, you use this term about entrepreneurs becoming buried in their business. And so I wanted to take a moment because I feel like we're identifying a portion of that,
Mm-hmm.
but in real life, what does it look like if there are some warning signs that you can share with us as founders start to become like a bottleneck towards their own success?
Yeah, so this space is overcoming limiting beliefs, counterproductive, inherited habits of chronic overfunctioning, micromanagement, all of these things that you sort of carried over your life. In entrepreneurship, these are all going to come into question. And they're going to look different in different ways. When you start to get into this space of sort of in flow with yourself, you're able to receive something from some external source. Somebody responded to your website, right, on social media or something. You're able to receive it knowing, oh, well, I know what I need to do with this. I know how I want to process this. I know what parts of my business this is going to impact. I have command of what's happening in my business to be able to drive this. If that same thing means you got to do all 15 steps manually, you're not there yet. If the steps can only be done manually because you're making clothes, that's one thing. If it's 15 steps to make the actual garment, but if the way you receive the order is manual, the way you then plug it manually into something else that gives you this other output, all of these things start to sort of think about it. How you manage your IT, your social media. Are you on there every day, all day? What does it look like to actually replenish your actual business model. One of the things I do, now I've had a huge career in doing this type of thing, but there's this space for me where every day is a new day for new information. And so nothing that I've created is so solid that I just can't use anything else. I'm always asking myself the question, what's the most efficient way to get this done? What's the most effective way that allows me to do the thing that I need to do? For instance, one of the things I really love to do is do these type of talks. I can do it any day. You can call me at 3 o'clock. It's like, now, can you join this one at 6:30? Your boy is going to be ready because I actually spend time pouring into myself to dismantle the shadow scripts. One of the shadow scripts I told you all about was 8 to 5 on timing. Another shadow script that we have is the feedback that our bosses gave us over our career. If the moment you leave that job, you still worried about what that one person said and that one job and that one role you had, whoo, I'm gonna need you to breathe. That means you throw that whole thing in the trash. Because that boss, that situation, that context, none of that matters. I actually talk to people and I'm like, I can make the decision right now. I'm the CEO. There's no board. There's nobody else I need to talk to. I understand what my capacity is so that when I'm communicating with folks, I'm able to be present to think about what problem are they actually trying to solve before I actually think about, well, how can my business be a part of the solution? I'm of the firm belief that if I don't know what you're trying to solve for, I don't know how my solution is going to fit. So I spend time trying to pull that information out. And so when we think about these counterproductive things, oh man, I got to do it all. I got to oversee every step. Yeah, I outsource them, but I need to bring it back so I can do this. If everything has to have your fingerprints on it, if everything has to have your touch on it, you're missing something out of your own business. First thing I would say is you're missing yourself because you're not trusting yourself. And you're not trusting yourself based on, did I pick the business partners that I can trust? Do I have a path of touching base with them to understand if they're executing and delivering what they need to be delivering? All of these things come into this space without us thinking about, well, I'm the vision for this thing. This business is going to change as people change. It's going to change as the context around me change. It's going to change as materials become available or not available, right? I'm going to have to pivot. Each one of you know that you're literally almost adjusting what you do almost on a weekly basis because you get some feedback. And now you get the feedback and you go, is this something I should sit with and apply? Maybe it's not. And so I think as we close this point here, and hopefully we get some questions in this, but those scripts that we run, that was from something that happened way back when, and we're allowing it to drive us forward. We're actually running a script that doesn't even actually match this race that we're running right now. Because the race you're running right now, you are the decision maker, you are the vision, you are the reason why this business exists in the way that it exists, because you, in your own experiences, said, hey, I think there's a different way we can do this. Or, hey, I think this is a path here. That to me is the most important place to make sure you're pouring into, which is recognizing the gift of you and how the gift of you pours in and pours out of this thing that you're now delivering for somebody else.
Yes. So now we have a question from Paula right before she asks. I'm going to ask you to clarify by what you mean when you use the term scripts for this
Yeah.
conversation, but it goes right into Paula's conversation. So you can work that in when you answer. I'm gonna go ahead and remove myself, but Paula, the floor is yours.
Okay, so you're speaking to everything I'm currently dealing with right now. Um, with I want to say within my business, but the further I get into this thing and you're confirming it now, I'm realizing it's not the business, is me. So and just to stay on, task with what you're talking about, the scripts, the shadow scripts, like I feel like I found myself rather doing a lot of busy work trying to piece things together on the internet of what I should be doing in this business to grow this business. And I'm doing all of these technical things, and it's really just turning into busy work that's not moving the needle, not changing me. And I'm realizing it's getting louder and louder. I'm like, oh, I'm still showing up really as the employee
Uh-huh.
who's been
Uh-huh.
doing the job for
Uh-huh.
12, 13 years and
Uh-huh.
not fully stepping into this leadership role that you're talking about. And I'm like, and again, trying to piece it all together. I was like, oh, I'm going to read leadership books and do all of these things. And it's not hitting that everything is really just turning up as busy work. So how, like, I'm sure we all know we have, like, just old scripts running in our, in the back of our mind, leading the show that show up. We probably go home later, reflect. But how do you fix it? Like where do you start? You said earlier, you was like, you pour into yourself, so you stay ready. Like, how do we, like, what concrete thing can we do to start that journey?
Well, one concrete thing you could do, I know some folks around me would be proud that I say this. Well, you can buy my book, Unscripting, where I go through 5 essays of me sort of talking about how I've gone through this process. But to the space that you're at now, I sort of bring this sort of together here. Each one of us is born as a blank slate. Whatever the conditions were, so I was born in 1977, the conditions that was pre-19, they had nothing to do with me. Not a single thing. Not my mama's life, not her parents' life, not the city of Chicago, not Southside, not none of those. The fact that I was homeless the first 7 years of my life, they had nothing to do with me. But there are some things that was given to me during that time period that, unbeknownst to me, I had locked in on. And as I got older, as I started to, Glenn, I got a ping somebody saying, "Can you let them in the meeting?" I'm pretty sure that probably wasn't supposed to come to me, but anyways, there's a space by which we get it, and as we start to evolve our own self, we start to have these experiences that don't match. My first day in college, my roommate was atheist. I was raised by my grandmother, so I moved to Arkansas when I was 7. I was raised by my grandmother, so we was always in the church. It just been born in my head that if you don't believe in God, you're going to hell. And all of a sudden, I got this roommate who's atheist, who ain't never read the Bible. His parents ain't never read the Bible. Guy got no frame of reference other than what they've heard. I ended up rooming with the guy for 2 years. The guy was a good human. We both wanted to room with each other a second time. The scripts that we have, when we run into them, the first step we have is we have to ask ourselves, is this mine or is this somebody else's? So, Paula, that first step in unpacking those scripts or those shadow scripts is we have to have the awareness that I'm running a script. And if I'm aware that I'm running a script, I now get a chance to have the space of inquiry, which is this mine? Who gave it to me? How did I get it? Do I still need it? Is it useful? Where is it useful? Where is it not useful? And all of these things don't happen. They will not all happen in the same time. It's like riding a bike. When you first get on, that first push to get yourself going is not any other pushes that you do after that, right? You get the rhythm and you start to go. So the first part of unscripting is the awareness of, for all of us right now, even me going through this, there's some scripts I'm running that they're causing chaos. There's some that used to cause chaos, and I've been able to sort of go through them. But because we are all like onions, it is near impossible to unscript from everything that you've ever experienced. And so, Paula, to your question, what do you start to do technically, sort of tangibly? Awareness comes from asking yourself, did I like this experience? What about this experience did I not like? Like you, if I step into what you said, you were reading all of this stuff and none of it resonated. The script to ask yourself is, well, who told me I should do all this reading? And what is all this reading designed to do? What are some other ways I can get the same information? Like, for instance, I would say you should visit some folks who are in the same space as you, not necessarily directly in the Pilates space, but maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's a gym owner. Maybe it's a massage. A lot of these folks who do this one-on-one work or these small group works, these are folks you want to get insights from, because in order for you to deliver for your business, the more you become aware of the options and ways people have been successful or have overcome this, the more things you have at your fingertips to actually explore and figure it out. One of the things I always say to myself is, I don't care how anybody else do. You got shit to do with me, because you may do this because you can do this knowing that you can go right into this great old gospel song and hit those notes. Bro, I'm not about to hit no notes. I'm not about to do anybody bad like that. And so for me, when I look at it, I'm like, well, bro, I'm not singing no jingle. Like this ain't about to get me viral. This is the thing that I got to do. I'm able to sit there and sort of go. Think about imposter syndrome. Glad you said that. Because that run. One, I would say to everybody, one of the things I like to always do when I talk about imposter syndrome is that how in the hell can you be an imposter of a human? You exist as you exist. There's absolutely no way you can do that. Now, if you say, well, I want to mimic everything about Glenn, well, now I'm impersonating Glenn. Now I'm saying, well, I like more about Glenn than I like about myself. If you actually do the research on imposter syndrome, you will understand that the people who did the research, none of them look like us. The body of people that they had didn't look like us. But Black women have really attached to this imposter syndrome in ways that doesn't necessarily make sense, but we've been pushed it. Imposter syndrome is the external focus versus the internal focus. To get rid of imposter syndrome, you have to simply just come inside yourself and say, who am I and what am I capable of doing? I don't have any imposter syndrome. I know I can talk anywhere. If y'all don't like it, then okay, great. Y'all didn't like it. Hey, now I did the thing, man, totally bummed. I need to then go, well, who was this audience? And who was I talking to? And what did I say? And what are some reasons why they, and then if they give me some feedback, I go, oh, now here's why you missed the ball. You didn't listen to anything that they said. And that's the space where we have to go, just because I bombed it out over there, it don't even mean I failed. I like to tell my kids, because I live by this myself, every day is a new day. Every day you get new information. Every day everybody else is getting new information. Every day there's new pieces to the puzzle. And you're tasked with, do I even need to pick it up or not? Is it even mine to carry? Is this my piece of the puzzle to put right here? Sometimes we have to be like, no, that's not my piece of the puzzle. So when you're in this space of feeling like you are impersonating anybody, the question you should ask yourself is, why am I not impersonating myself? What about me do I not get, grasp? Because here's the one thing I want us all to remember. Nothing about you is actually broken. You're buried under expectations. And so one of the quotes I like to say is that we're not broken, we are buried. We're buried under these scripts. And so one of the things we have to do to get out of them is, the first tangible thing we have to do is we have to become aware that something else that I'm not aware of, because I haven't paused myself to ask myself, what the hell is happening with me, to be able to get into that next phase, which is the space of inquiry, to blindly run past, not knowing your own why.
Ari, I want to follow with a question so bad. So what's coming up on my end is going to be asking, how do we differentiate between knowing we need to develop a skill versus experiencing imposter syndrome? But before we get to that, uh, Kanai has a question for you, so I'm gonna let her take it away.
Yeah,
Oh, wait. If
I think he
Nyerere.
froze.
Oh, he did freeze. Oh man. Oh man. All right, well, Chad, while we wait for him to get back into here, question for everyone here in the audience, because we're talking about oh my God, we've uncovered so many different scripts. The script about time management and how we are managing our time. The script about or the shadow script when it comes towards getting appropriate feedback, and now we're talking about in our imposter syndrome. Are any of this relevant for where you are currently today? chat. Oh, okay, Nyerere came back. But please let us know if you want to put it into the comments. If you want to add right now, is any of this relevant to what you are experiencing today? And I'm going to make sure that we get your question in for Nyerere. But Kyra, I see your hand is up. If you want to say something about it.
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm in a chapter of like it felt like I'm literally standing in a chapter of having to how should I explain it? So
Just say
I
it just
think
like it comes out.
I'm one of the women who are trying to get survival. Well, I'm one of the women who is trying to escape survival, but I had to realize that survival has to leave me. And one thing that I was having a problem with my business because I had left my business in survival too. And it started to slow down for me, like things started to get confused for me. And I had to, well, I'm in the midst of relearning, well, not relearning, learning new habits that fit the chapter that I'm in right now, versus trying to bring the old me that I no longer need, and my business is operating like the old me, and I had left it behind. So now I'm trying to get it back. And when he had brought up like the time management and things like that, and the girl was like, I be doing busy work, I feel the same way too, because I'm at a crossroad about leaving the old me behind and becoming a new person, becoming who I need to be for me in this. So this resonates like really well right now.
If I was to step into what you just said, one, we're all survivors. The
Mm-hmm.
whole part of this whole thing is that we all have to survive. If we think about what I said earlier, that we all start out at ground zero, and then we get these conditions put upon us. I'm gonna use religion, for instance. One of the things we don't get in religion is this suite of options in your early age. You get the options that your folks gave you. And now in my life, I would go, man, I probably would have picked some of these other options had y'all sort of said, hey, gave me some exposure, but it was a harder thing to do in terms of walking away from the thing that was given to me by the people that I love, by my grandmother, and her always saying, hey, this got me through, this gonna get you through. Well, when she passed, church wasn't there to get me through the grief. Right? I had to find some different tools, right? I started asking some different questions, right? And so in this space, you're never getting rid of the old me. There's not this sense of this old me versus this new me. It's the evolved version of you. If today you didn't read every day and then all of a sudden you say, you know what, I'm gonna read for 5 minutes today. And then tomorrow you get up and you say, I'm gonna read for 5 minutes. Well, tomorrow you read, today you read, and then tomorrow you read. You don't have to say I didn't do this reading all the way back then because it doesn't matter now. You're now on day 2 of reading for 5 minutes. We have to be able to step into the space of, well, I survived today, so now I'm here. What can I do today to move myself forward? And so, in this space of talking about survival, it also becomes the language of how we talk to ourselves. We don't use the negatives. One of the things when I'm talking and I'm communicating, I try to be mindful of, and sometimes I'll catch myself. Sometimes I'm about to say the negative version. Well, you don't need to do this versus why would I put the negative version out there and not and just step into, well, now one way you can get to from point A to point B is that if you do this. You see how there's no negatives in there? I'm not down talking myself. I'm not second guessing myself. I'm putting the options out there. And so as we're going through this, and you definitely need a conversation with me so we can work through some of this stuff because I heard some other stuff you got going on in there that I think as we are. So the work that I do in the Growfessor space is something that's similar that's happening right now. People talk to me and then I hear how they talk to themselves. I hear how they word things. I hear how they phrase things. And then naturally for me, pieces start to come together and I'm like, well, I wonder if that person know why they're using this term and why they said this. I help folks find the awareness to themselves, and then they can start to go, oh. And what happens is eventually there's this breakthrough question that happens that in this back and forth, when you're curious about yourself, you inevitably end up with a breakthrough question, which is that question that go, oh, why didn't I think about that before? This is interesting. We got to lean into us and the experience of being us. And so I want to sort of close this space here before we get to Kanai, which is the space of self. It is the most, in my TEDx, I talk about this as the purpose, is you enjoying the existence of you being you for you. That's it. It's not about the job. It's not about going to church. It's not about getting married. It's not about none of that. Because before you got any of that stuff, you was a 5-year-old with none of these responsibilities. Did you enjoy being 5? Right? And at 5, you didn't have all these responsibilities. And as you start to sort of move in age, all of this other stuff comes. And we start to get externally focused about productivity and doing all these things so that the world can see that we're doing all these things. And we fail to answer the first question. Am I doing the things just for myself? And so every day I spend time just with myself, doing nothing. After this session, now my boys may have some stuff to talk about in the group chat, but I'm gonna go sit outside and I'm gonna just sit there. I'm not about to do nothing. I'm just gonna sit there. I love to just sit with myself to say, this is just you, Nyerere. I realize the more that I sit with myself, less I have to solve for myself because the decisions that I make are rooted in myself. And so when we talk about how do you talk to yourself, I'm very conscious about how do I talk to myself. I'm very conscious about the time that I spend with myself. I'm very conscious about how I pour into myself. These are things that are, for me, don't got nothing to do with nobody else. And I don't care what nobody else got to say about it. This is about me, for me, so that I can enjoy this existence of being me. Because if the existence of being me is all about my wife enjoying me, or my kids enjoying me, or this job enjoying me, or this business getting stuff out of me, I'm going to die when giving everything to everybody else except giving something to myself. And I think this is the space that when we talk about imposter syndrome, that when we talk about dismantling shadow scripts, to me, when we talk about unlocking the entrepreneur, in order for your business to thrive, the entrepreneur to me has to be unlocked. The entrepreneur has to be in tune with themselves to be able to pull themselves in and say, yeah, I don't need to do this. This is probably a time where I need to find an intern. Or, hey, where's my little cousin who like coding? Oh, get your little butt up in here. I got something you can do. Yeah, I'm gonna take you out to eat after this. We now, in that what you just heard me describe, you now building with this little kinfolk. You now upskilling kinfolk. You're actually practicing leadership at the same time. And all you're thinking about is this work belongs to somebody else. That simple question unlocked this whole value proposition that creates now, the more you do that, the more it becomes easier to work with that person. You built the trust, right? They know how you're thinking. But it all started with you saying, how am I going to spend my time today? And what about the way I spend my time is going to add the most value to me in my own existence and then pour into my business? And I'm going to say this way and give this pause here, which is when you pour into yourself, your own cup overflows. Everybody who gets something from me, it's actually coming from my overflow because I take the ownership of pouring into myself. Doesn't mean I don't need somebody else pouring into me. I got a group chat with my guys. Glenn and I was on the phone for 2.5 hours when we thought it was just going to be a quick 5 minutes. I got poured into that conversation as well, too, right? And so the way this thing works is that when you prioritize you for yourself, you open up your capacity because of your overflow. And now when people get from your overflow, if people don't, let me say this different. You're not responsible for how other folks swim in your overflow. You're not responsible whether or not somebody drowns in your overflow. You should probably get over there if you can't roll in this water, right? And so there's some parts of your own race that you got to be like, shit, bro. This is just my goodness. This is just how I exist. And when you start to tap into yourself, the way you start to see external, you inherently know that everybody else got some shit going on. And so you can't, so then I don't get frustrated if don't nobody hit me back. If they don't respond, shit, I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. In this space, in this space that I'm pouring into right now is for each of you as entrepreneurs to first and foremost see yourself as the goddamn thing. Cat Williams said it best. Y'all got to look in the goddamn mirror and be like, shit, I'm the MVP. I'm the superstar today. And because if you don't do it, that means you got to wait on somebody else to do it. And God, dog, if I got to wait on somebody else to compliment me, y'all, what are we talking about here? Look, let's go. What questions we got?
I know you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead for
All right, he sound like me. No,
That's
so
what I'm
when you
talking about.
say like unscript, right? Is that's like rewriting your story and getting a foundation to your why on why you start your business or why you want to do what you want to do, right?
Yes, but some of those are layers. Once you identify you first, but what you want to do is all of those pop off from there. The look, if I die today, none of this matters.
But
My
you
kids can
created
probably
to give it on, to pass it on though. Like you create
well.
wealth. But how do you
So here's the thing about this. I don't think about legacy in that sense, and I don't think about creating wealth in that sense. The wealth and legacy that I ever want to create is for my kids to understand that purpose that I talk about. If these kids enjoy the existence of them being them,
what if we don't have
probably
kids?
nothing else. What
What
was
if we
that?
don't have kids?
No, but I'm saying for you though. That's what I mean. For you, when you enjoy yourself for the existence of you being you, your legacy is going to flow from that. Because whatever it is you create, it now has a space where, to something you said, if it becomes profitable enough that I leave it, right? That I hire some staff and somebody wants to take it over. Is there somebody in my family, right? That I merge with another business? There's a whole bunch of things because here's the reality of it. None of us got 6 p.m. today promised to us. Somebody got something on their schedule. They got like, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and we don't even know if we're gonna get there. We have the assumption of tomorrow. We have the assumption of I'm going to be able to build something and give it to somebody as a legacy versus in building myself and unscripting myself to be able to understand and be able to answer questions about me and what I did and why I did it and where my frame of reference was coming from. To be able to leave my kids with that. To be able to leave somebody else from some conference or even this conversation with that. It's not about a legacy for me. It's about a being. In my being, did somebody say on their own, bro, I like something this bro said. I mean, I'm about this bro book. I'm going to go to this session. Or you know what? When he said that, you know what? I'm going to start doing this. That is something breathing on its own. Just like the products that you have. Just like the businesses that you build. People come inside your business to get this thing that you get. But what you're really hoping that takes place is that when they leave this place, they keep up with some of those practices.
Yeah, stepping into the play.
Sometimes we touch legacy and leaving something for somebody else as if we have an option. Once we're gone, that legacy, you're not even responsible for maintaining it at that point. You're not even responsible for making sure they keep true to it at that point. Even the wealth, they can blow it all in one day. You're not even there to so we get concerned about some things that exist when we don't even exist anymore. Which is why it's so important for us to enjoy this existence of us being here for now. So when you pour into that, you don't got to think about your legacy because what you actually ultimately do, the way you actually live, the way you actually show up becomes the tangible pieces that somebody else, because we never know who's watching us. There's a lot of legacy we all have and we got no clue because the person didn't say anything about it. The person saw you doing something and was like, I don't know, you guys seen the commercial where somebody picks up some paper and somebody else saw it and then they somewhere else and then they do some type of kind that. Those things happen on a continuum. So what I would say to you is to legacy is external to you. Leaving wealth for somebody else is external to you. If you mass $1 billion because this is how your thing went, your idea went well, and then you decide to leave that, well, you deciding to leave it was based on your core. The billionaires who have decided to say, hey, I'm giving all this away, that's from their core. versus the billionaires who, no, this just staying in my family. We're just going to keep the billions within our family and we're going to keep it here. That's what they've decided to do. But it all goes back into what's happening on the inside of you. And are you able to tap into the experience of you for you? Because it's interesting that we're having a conversation or we're thinking about the word legacy, which is external, versus, well, what's the legacy I want to live myself? I actually want to be in a space where I'll be like, look, when I lay down at night, I kind of go, oh, you know what, now you did the thing today. Yeah, you didn't overwork. Yeah, you didn't overpromise. You wasn't a busybody. You see how all of those are negatives? You didn't. The language, when we change it, Nyerere, man, I enjoyed being with you today. We had a great day today. Look, we're about to go to sleep in our own house. The mortgage is paid, right? Kids are safe, right? Nyerere, there's nothing else for you. Just take some time for you, right? And I think in this case, your business needs you to take time for you. The space as an entrepreneurship needs you to take time for you. Because when you pour into you, the energy that you need, the effort that you need, the business, that opens up exponentially.
So now,
So
yeah,
now, where you at? You got to follow up. Was it crazy?
Yeah.
What's missing?
Well, I'm there. I live that every day. So I teach other people how to do that as well. So
Okay.
my question was, when you say unscripted, is that like rewriting your story?
It's not, it is rewriting it, but think about it differently. Somebody gave me some dirty clothes, and I'm going, take these dirty clothes off. And then I ask myself, so now I'm taking the dirty clothes off. Now I'm completely naked.
Mm-hmm.
The question I ask myself is, what clothes do I want to put on myself? So in this terms of sort of, it's like reframing. It's like rescripting. But the thing that is different is that you're actually tapping into saying, this didn't work for me, and I know why.
Gotcha.
Now, it creates a gap because you're now moving away from something that you no longer need, that no longer serves you. And now this other journey, which is figuring out, well, what do I replace it with? That becomes this whole journey of self-exploration.
And that goes
And
back
that's
to
why,
time management, right?
say that again.
That goes back to time management.
Well, time management, time is unimpacted by the way you manage it. Your management of time is about you taking advantage of the time that you actually have. Again, time is linear. Time ain't stopping. Time ain't slowing down. Time is just moving 1 second at a time. Whether or not you decide to go eat right now or do this email or do that, time is uninvolved with whatever it is you got going on. So in unscripting, you are becoming aware of what's moving you, what's driving you, what's influencing you, how it's influencing you. You're getting curious about those things. And then you're saying, yeah, in order for this to be clean, I'm going to need this to look like this. Everybody don't clean their house in the same way. Some people start with bathrooms. Some people start with this. Everybody does. But whenever we clean it, we all got this version of what clean looks like for us. And what we go, hey, you know what? Now this looks like I need to, because otherwise we're going to keep finding stuff until it gets to be the clean that we want it to be. And so in unscripting, it is a evergreen process because we as people are like onions. Everything that's went bad or everything didn't work doesn't all come up all at the same time. You may be in this random situation and feel, man, why do I feel weird here? And then when you start asking yourself those questions, you go, why do I feel weird here? Because and the energy is off in this place. Well, why is the energy is off in this place? Did I come here with some expectations that nobody else has agreed to? In unscripting, you have some scripts that you have never agreed to, but yet you're running with it. I ran with Christianity and I never agreed with it. It was given to me. And when the way it was given to me, I accepted it and I owned it. And then I started meeting folks who had come from different backgrounds. And now I'm going, wait a minute. So these folks over here getting judged by this, and these folks over here who believe in this book getting judged by this, but yet we both right here at the same grocery store at the same time with two different belief systems. Man, how does this thing work? And then I started going asking myself, wait a minute now. And then I started asking myself like again. So I said I was in the academic space for 5 years. stuff like to me go, well, where's the red line version? What's the track change version? Like, can somebody give me the track change version of the Bible? Like, I'd love to see. And then I'm like, well, who's all the authors? Like, even the Constitution. The Constitution, I go, man, 85% of the people who wrote the Constitution actually directly owned slaves, either them or the person that they was married to. So I look at the Constitution going, ain't a goddamn way this Constitution had me in mind or the future of me in mind, because at that point they owned us when they came with this. And so there's a script that doesn't serve us. I'm not going to change the world by unscripting it, but I'm certainly going to change how I interact with the world by going, I see this document very differently than this. I don't see this as the North Star. I see this as a document that this particular folks use in this particular thing here in that space, but it's not something that I feel like makes sense for me or applies for me. So what is my other thinking that I bring to the table? I like to say this thing, there's 8.8 billion people on this planet right now. There's not a single thing we all agree on. If we all agree that the basic needs was food, clothing, and shelter, let's call it a fourth one, healthcare. Few places offer all of those for free. Clearly, we don't agree on this. But yet, it's out there, and people can quote it, and people can talk about it, but we simply don't agree on how it's executed. And so in that space, unscripting isn't just all about rescripting. It's about the awareness of, it's about, in the words of Erykah Badu, bag lady, if you keep carrying all these scripts around, as entrepreneurs, we carry scripts. And we have to let go of those scripts. And some of us just open my hand. That bag ain't mine. And when you know the bag ain't yours, when you know the script ain't yours, it's not a rescript. It becomes the script. What is it that I want to do? Which is the way that I want to move? Because you may not sign up for a particular script. You may say, hey, you know what? There's a suite of options in here. And I'm going to always approach this thing like a suite of options. But there's a part of unscripting that actually has a value proposition. Is that if you dig within yourself and you hit that bottom and you say, no, I'll stand on this. I firmly believe that this is what this is supposed to be. Well, it's no longer a script that you're running without awareness. And at that point, that thing should not be causing negative problems for you because you've validated that this is what it is. And if that's the thing that you now set the boundaries on, well, when somebody comes up to the boundaries and they get the boundary response of, yeah, this is a no-go for me, I don't got to feel bad that it's a no-go because I have validated this is why I hold this thing to be of value to me. And you have come to this space below that value, not respecting that value, not appreciating that value. Well, you got to get the response that comes with not appreciating this value or this boundary that I put in.
Professor, I wanted to jump in here because I wanted to ask a question um, about one of your previous works. So we're learning a newer term and we're trying to work through this, but this isn't all you have for our entrepreneurs as we're moving forward.
That's
And one of
correct.
the things that you teach, and I want to take a moment too, and let me do just a quick room check. I know we are at about an hour. I want to make sure that everybody is good. We are still here, so if you are still here, you're active participating. We got a couple more minutes that we're going to give. Just drop I'm here in the chat, or a thumbs up in the chat. Just want to make sure that everybody is still here while I move to this next question. Thanks, Steve. So you teach about the 4 C's of cultivation.
Yep.
And so if I'm reading this right, it's open exchange, genuine
Yep.
relationships, joint effort, and collective support.
Yep.
So I believe these 4 C's is great once we get past a certain level of unscripting, and we want to continue to have success, sustain growth, etc., and dealing with all of the limitations of time. Can you talk us through how these 4 elements create a healthier and more scalable business?
Yeah. So in these 4 C's, one, so I led portfolio program management for Fortune 100 companies, responsible for multi-billion-dollar budgets under my own organization. And at the portfolio level, responsible for making sure the C-suite was prepared for quarterly earnings calls. Now, one of the things I learned is that, for instance, when I was at J&J, it's 130,000 folks. I absolutely can't know everybody, right? But how do I get the insights and the information that I need? How do I make sure I'm able to move and be effective without having to do all the work and all the things? And so in my corporate space, these 4 C's that I now talk about in this way, they used to just be the letter C: communicate, collaborate, connect, and cooperate. That made sense within the business model and the words that we use in that model. In this space of entrepreneurship, I actually think, and actually overall, I think this is teams, this applies to communities, but we have to show up in open exchange. In open exchange, this is what we're having right now. This is an open exchange. And as a part of this open exchange, genuine relationships are being built because you guys are asking questions. And I'm not just talking about theory. I'm actually giving my own self in here. I'm pulling my own experiences in here. And in real time, I'm answering your questions as well. When we show up with open exchange, with the sort of space of understanding, I'm trying to build a genuine relationship with somebody. Well, in this conversation right now, we've had an open exchange. We are starting to build genuine relationships. If any one of you wanted to set up a call after this and we talked about something, we then get to decide what we want this next space to look like. In that next space, it has to have joint effort, and we have to have that collective support. The conversation Glenn and I had, because Glenn and I have open exchanges, and we built our own genuine relationship. We was once in the room together, and then we exchanged contacts on our own, right? We started to build that. And then when I started to come out into this business and start acting, well, Glenn was somebody I reached out to. We like, what you got going? Like, and so because of that, now here's where open exchange needed Glenn to be open about what he's got going on. Well, as I was writing my book, Glenn was writing the book, and Glenn is still working on his book and writing that. And so Glenn was like, man, we should probably have a conversation. Glenn, whenever you want to talk. Like, there's the trust that we built because we're willing to be open and exchange information with each other. There's no gatekeeping between Glenn and I. Tim Hullen, who's on, there's no gatekeeping between Tim and I. Steve, our other friend, there's no gatekeeping. If they experience something, they're like, hey, bro, I need y'all I'm putting y'all up on this. It doesn't mean we have to agree on it, but they're saying, hey, I found this to be of interest. I found this to be a successful. This was a helpful tip for me, whatever the case may be. Now, what's important with open exchange and genuine relationship, this requires you to show up as yourself. Now, in cultivation, just like if you had a garden, there's one thing to plant it, and there's another thing to water it. There's another thing to weed it. There's another thing to harvest it. Now, if I ask myself the question, do I got to do all 4 steps? Well, probably don't. I'm probably sure I can get somebody else to help harvest. Like, what are some ways I can create some opportunities? And so when you get to joint effort and collective support, these are like a yin and a yang. In joint effort, Dr. Glenn and I said, hey, I got this thing. Would you be interested? Yeah, well, let's talk about it. Glenn brought his information. He said, hey, this is what I need in return from you. I was like, okay, well, based on this, here's what I'm going to send back. And I got these questions. And then we go back and forth. In collective support, I was like, Glenn, hey, I got this thing, but I need the link. If you want my team to put this out there, I'm going to need the link. That's me holding Glenn accountable. Like, hey, you gave me this information. I'm missing this piece here. In order for me to have the success that you want, because one of the criteria you said, if you sign up for this, I'm going to need you posting about it. Well, Glenn, here's the information I need. All of these pieces came together, which is why we was on a 3-hour call. That was supposed to be 15 minutes. Because once we started talking, the other connectivities came in. It's like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Oh, well, I can do this. Well, you can do this. And then the accountability comes in at what's the follow-up? I mentioned earlier, for those of you who was on, Tim is starting a business. I put in the group chat, Tim, bro, you sent us this. What's the next step? Did you submit? Did you do this? And then he gave us the answer. I was like, okay, this makes sense. That was collective support and joint effort. He reached out to us for feedback, And that was us, somebody in the group chat saying, hey, bro, where we at? Are you still moving on this? Is this still a thing? We're literally asking ourselves the question. And that is when I talk about this cultivation, to me, when you bring these 4 elements, whatever it is you're trying to build, it doesn't mean it's not going to have challenges. It's not going to mean this everything is going to go right the first time. But it does mean I've created this space where I know that all of those things fit within this space. Because in this open exchange, there's this part that we all have to know that nothing's going to go right every time the first time. And it doesn't make sense. Because if we got everything right the first time, I don't know what the hell this thing would look like. What would be growth then? Right? Growth is, oh, I did this the first time. Oh, wait a minute, I had a leak out of this. Maybe I'm gonna use a different bag this time. Maybe I'm gonna double bag it, right? Maybe I'm gonna try a different container. All of these different iterations are normal and natural to the process. And we use words like, oh man, this was a mistake. We use these negative terms versus, I only did it one time. What the hell did I think I was gonna do? What expectations did I set for myself? And did I meet the expectations? Or did I set some expectations that, hey, so when I lived in California, I moved back to Chicago in 2021. When I lived in California, I used to run 6 miles a day. I moved here during wintertime in Chicago. You can't run outside. So I got out of the habit of running. I'm not about to go outside and run 6 miles today, y'all. It's just not about to happen. Even though I got this experience in it. Now my experience should say, well, now you gotta work your way up to it. Let's just go for a walk today. And tomorrow, let's see if we can walk a little bit faster. You're continuously sort of thinking about what makes sense. And you're asking yourself, what do I need? Now, open exchange could be like, hey, sending out this group text. Hey, anybody got a running club that they got? Anybody want to go running? I'm trying to get back into running. Whoever signs up. Now we have a conversation about what we're trying to do, right? Now we're making some agreements together. It is important for you to understand that literally everybody you come in contact with is an opportunity for you to cultivate something. It's cultivating a personal relationship. Maybe it's cultivating a business relationship. Maybe it's Kanai and I coming together. Like, Kanai, you do this. Now, I don't know nothing about Pilates. I do a little yoga on the side, a little 5 minutes here and there. I kind of got a little here, but I ain't never done no Pilates. But you do mind development work. Let's have a conversation about. Tell me about your mind work. I'm gonna tell you about my mind work. Hey, you know what? Hey, you know what? We should do a session together. Well, what does that session look like for you? Well, are we getting paid for it? Well, what? Now we're just building. And whatever that thing we come out together that we both decide that this is what we want to birth, we're both in. And so we have to hold each other accountable. That's why, so Glenn, when you put which seed are you cultivating, they're all cultivated all at the same time because they all go together. In any conversation, I got to be, right now, I'm willing to be open, willing to build genuine relationships. You guys already know, I'm definitely going to hold some folks accountable, right? Just joint effort. Well, this is what we agreed upon, right? Just gave you an example. Glenn, this is what we agreed upon, but I'm missing this. The collective support was, well, Glenn, you said success looks like this. Well, I want to make sure we get success. Here's what I need to get it together, right? And as we pull those pieces together, we just continue to refine ourselves. So the next time we do this, Glenn's going to be like, I know now you're going to ask about this damn link. Let me make sure I get a link before I send it to him because I know how he is before he gets it to his team. And we start to build these little new things together that goes like this. One thing Glenn and I said when we was on our call, like, bro, we need to do this in person next time. And I was like, yeah, bro, you need to come by the house. And he's like, yeah, I heard you got a mention. This, right? But you need to come for yourself, right? And so that's kind of how the conversation's going, that now we talking about Glenn coming to my house. Like, we went from quickly, let's meet somewhere else. But I was like, Glenn, because he's like, we could do, she'll say it out loud. So we get some drinks, we can get some food. And I was like, well, we gotta get some weed in there too. And I was like, I got all of these at my house. Glenn can just come over. Like now this is me and Glenn. This don't got nothing to do with Sunshine. This don't got nothing to do with Growfessor. Now this is just me and Glenn, right? And so there's the opportunity though. Glenn sends me a text message and Glenn's like, hey, what you doing later? Glenn, what time you talking? He's like, hey, I got this thing on Saturday. Can you do it? Glenn, today's Thursday. Glenn didn't say, I don't care. I don't know. He was just like, well, are you in or not? Right? And so then I go, okay, Glenn, I'm in. Right? And so when you build, as you're cultivating, it is a continual thing. Me, Tim, and Steve have been friends since we were 7. Cultivation looks like these brothers showing up while they got their own jobs, while one is trying to launch his own business, right? This is what this looks like. Because you're cultivating, they're not cultivating my success in terms of this job. They're my friends, and they're going, well, shit, let me show up. This is collective support. The joint effort is Tim telling the whole group chat, hey, y'all can still log in right now. Which means Steve, when he joined, Steve probably joined at that last follow-up alert Tim did, because he didn't register yesterday when Tim did it yesterday, right? And so now I could be wrong, because Steve could have registered yesterday, but I don't know, right? And so when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is work. Again, when you're cultivating, there's a natural sort of thing that happens where it starts to feed each other. And now you get this growth that is amplified. The true value proposition of this cultivation is the same thing that happens if you put a garden in your yard. You're cultivating something that can be shared and experienced with other folks. And now, because you have this garden, you're gonna meet some new folks that you didn't know before, just because you have this garden. Oh man, I heard you had some tomatoes. Oh, I got some tomatoes. I'll give you one today. And you come over here asking for 6 tomorrow. Like, bro, I'm gonna give you one, but I'm gonna charge you 35 cents for each additional one. Right? Again, bro, I'm happy to share with you, but if you're gonna come over and eat all my tomatoes, I gotta get a little compensation for my effort. And we gotta be comfortable as entrepreneurs asking for that compensation for our effort, for the work that we do, for the talent that we bring to the table, for the way we pour into ourselves and cultivate ourselves. We know we have a value proposition that requires compensation. You got to cultivate those relationships. You've got to cultivate those environments. You got to cultivate your business in that way where you start to look at everybody as a potential partner, right? Somebody to collaborate with. Hey, well, you know what? Hey, church, hey, why don't I bring my Pilates and we can do Pilates either before or after Bible study? Need y'all to give me $250 at the top and I can do the whole group of 10, right? Like there's these things. Now, you should ask the church money because they also play the pianists, right? They play the guitars, right? So if you're going to do, right, your thing, you should also say, hey, what does this look like? Now, if it's just in your heart that you just want to be there and you decide to not charge, then let it be because I just want to do this thing. And if I wanted to do this thing, knowing that this is the thing that I wanted to do, I'm not concerned about compensation. How I show up in my own life right now, Glenn knows the last thing I ask anybody about is compensating me. Because the first thing that's most important to me when I walked away from corporate is to make sure that I wasn't on any goddamn conference calls that I didn't want to be in. Like somebody's not just sticking something on my account. Like I'm not involved in nothing that I don't want to be involved in, and ain't nobody about to force me into some stuff that I don't want to be doing. So knowing that the thing is what I want to be doing, if Glenn reached out to me and said, hey, Saturday I'm gonna be with these boys, they from 6 to 13, right? They got some Glenn, bro, I'm there. My kids don't got nothing. Glenn, I'm there. I want to do that. Right? Now, if I found out Glenn got paid and Glenn didn't want to break me off nothing in open exchange, like Glenn, bro, oh, well, what are we doing here, bro? They told me they broke you off. Now you got through on that one. But the next time, Glenn, right? I got to be.
No, we know that would never happen.
Right. But again,
Because we're
right?
always.
This is an example. That's right. But it's about me being willing to have the conversation with Glenn to say, hey, Glenn, this is the information I heard. We'll write folks off. Versus in cultivation requires you to work through something. Gardening requires you to work through something. You don't control the ground. You don't control how the ground gets its own nutrients. You don't control when it actually rains. But you can decide, okay, well, it's not raining, I can go water. Right? There are things that you can do in this space, right? And so in cultivation, you first have to show up for yourself. You have to go into it knowing that you're going to be willing to be open. You're going to have to go into it knowing that I'm willing to hold myself accountable and the agreements that I came up with, which is part of the joint effort and collective support. And I'm going to be willing to hold other people accountable for the things that they committed to doing so that we can actually reach this point of success. And so that's that piece that we're sort of thinking about in this cultivation. And so I actually talk about this cultivation in a lot of different settings, a lot of different teams things. I have actual exercises that gets teams in rooms to actually work through these things and apply it together. So this isn't something that it just came up and it sounds catchy. But my corporate success has been built on my ability to bring these 4 things together. And it has absolutely cultivated my success of working in global positions, not even speaking the language in some places. I actually went to a conference in Brazil one time that they had to have a translator. I had to wear the headsets because nobody in there spoke English. Well, but guys, the room required me to be in there. And when I say I don't know how the hell the translator got through it, because when I say I was talking just like this, the translator was just rolling with the flow. When I was cussing, the translator was. So you see the room laughing. I was like, okay, I think they got it, right? So I kind of learned between what the translator was doing, the reaction that they got, and whether or not to keep going. But saying that to say, I went down there knowing, well, shit, I know what I know. And I don't know what they know, but they about to get what I know in that conversation, right? And so when you pour into yourself, understand that you start to build a level of confidence about yourself and your capabilities and your capacity that allows you to show up with these 4 C's. Easy for me to have open exchange conversation with somebody. My kids, I probably get on their nerves. I'll have a conversation with somebody in the library, in the line, and my kids, how do you know this person? Well, look, I saw they had this pasta. I was gonna get it, but I decided not to. So I asked them a question about it, and now we're talking about 7 other things outside of this. And my kids go, "Who are you?" Guys, how else was I gonna know? Now I don't gotta try for myself because this person just gave me some insights. Now I can pick up from what they gave me and go, well, what else can I learn from this? Again, when you're cultivating, it's not something that is sort of off and on. It becomes just a part of who you are. If I'm going to spend my time doing something, well, God damn it, I might as well cultivate something really good out of this experience. And that's where these sort of 4 C's of cultivation, because I promise you this, that if you bury those 4 C's in your own inner rooting, you're not going to be, you can't even envision it. And you can't envision it because you don't have it rooted, and so you don't know that. If you've never grown an apple tree, you don't know what it's like to actually grow an apple tree and get the apples all figuring out what's rotted versus not. All of these things come true, which is why it's so important for you to internally step inside of yourself, to ask yourself, what experience am I having? How am I doing? Am I okay? What agreements am I playing in my head? What expectations that I have? And let me be clear about this. The expectations that you have in your head, nobody else got them in their head unless you talk to them about it. So we often make these agreements and think that we all are thinking about the same thing, and when we're not. We don't all have the same definition for the same words. For instance, if I talk about this sort of struggle, people see struggle as such a negative word, when in fact, struggle is a normal part of growth. If the journey is 1,000 steps, getting to 956 means you did not complete the journey to 1,000 steps. And if you got to 956, that means you actually went through 955, because you don't get to skip steps in humanity. You do not get to skip steps in your own experience. So if you jump 10 steps, so for instance, if all of a sudden tomorrow I was a billionaire, if I didn't take the time to go, shit, I ain't never seen this many zeros in my account before, I need to probably start to ask myself some questions. What does this look like? How do I, if I don't start doing this, I'm gonna think these zeros ain't never gonna run out. And I'm saying yes to all type of things. Like, y'all, we making it rain every single place we go. I've never had it. And because I skipped the steps, there's some parts of it where in growing through it, which some people call struggle, I had to get better at it, right? I had to try it again. I had to get back up, right? Dust it off, rejig it here, draw it over here. Let me do it this way. And at some point it clicks because you've now got it to the point where you can do it 6 ways to Sunday. And it's in that space from where you started to this space, we see this pathway as this struggle that is such a negative thing, when in fact it is the basic fundamentals of growth. And so that's what I mean by when we use the same words, because most folks use struggle as a negative. And so we have to start thinking about what it actually takes to grow, because performance does not happen overnight, right? If you've been around, all of us, none of us started working, none of us started walking in one day with the fluency of not tripping and falling, not knowing how. Look, oh, you struggling to walk? No, I just took my first step for the first time, bro. I don't know what this look like. So I fell down. It makes sense that I got to get up. And it makes sense that I'm a little concerned because this time I failed. My head was big, and so I went over here a little too hard. Now I scared myself a little bit. Y'all, I'm going to crawl for the next day or so until, oh, no, give it. Guys, give me time. I got plenty of time to figure this out. And so when we think about the words that we're using in open exchange, in building genuine relationships, we get to ask those questions. Well, what do you mean when you say this? It happened in this conversation. What do you mean when you say unscripted? We're now sort of going, are we talking about the same things? So now we have less unrealized expectations, and we actually have, hey, we sat together and we came up with this definition.
So, Professor, I got one. I wanted to ask everyone when it comes towards cultivation, if there's a name that pops up in your head when we're talking about the 4 C's of cultivation, if you want to give them a shout out, in here in the chat, or if you just want to share that, go ahead and type that in, share that, and just think about who are those people that you are cultivating those seeds with to grow. But I had a question for you, Professor. Sunshine, that's right. All right, yeah, shout out. So Sunshine, yeah, you're
Look,
definitely
look,
cultivating with us
look.
here. Um, how does this translate? So it's another key term, and it's the last focus area that for this. How does this translate towards another body of work that you had with your multiplier effect? Um, you made a case developing that leaders sometimes create gaps between their leadership and the team or the people around them, the folks that they're supporting their dream. So how did this correlate with that multiplier effect?
Yeah. So most leaders don't practice the 4 C's, right? Your boss actually does not come to you in a corporate setting with open exchange. They don't tell you, hey, if you do these 4 things, you're gonna get promoted next year. I'm like, if you kind of, right? If you like, they kind of sort of lead, but it's not, and it's not genuine, right? You've gone through the experience, right? And it's not necessarily there. And so when we think about what we need to do to maybe transition into this space of what it started out, I called it the multiplier effect. And now I moved it over to the unscripting effect, because one of the things that I realized, that the point that I made in this white paper is that every vice president that I reported to had a coach that I never had access to. And I don't know about y'all, but none of the bosses I've reported to actually allowed me to give them a performance review of what I thought about their work. Right? But they was always giving me one, but I don't give a shit. So guys, what? And so I realized that my boss's coach was only getting my boss's view of the entire landscape. And in this white paper, I positioned that in order for you to sort of get to that true leadership, you got to be in the room with your team, cultivating. And so one of the things that I do in my Growfessor LLC is I do these immersions where if you want to hire me to coach you, I want access to your team. And if you don't want to give me access to your team, then I don't necessarily want to coach you. I've literally said no to some folks. Because if it's about me just coaching you to get promoted, I know for a fact you're about to leave these people behind. That for me doesn't sit well. And that's why I wrote the white paper, which is to say, if I'm going to step into this space of coaching, here's what this needs to look like. Now, I've had bosses that have gone off to these leadership retreats and they come back and they talk in this whole new language, and me and the whole team going, the hell are they talking about? Now we trying to use it. We trying to put it in place. And they like, no, not this, not that. And we're like, well, shit, this is what I thought this mean. It creates all these points of disconnection. So when you're sitting down, talking to these entrepreneurs now, so in this space, in this 4 C's of cultivation, this is where you get a chance to sit in and you get to start to ask these questions and you get to start to see the responses. Does this response make sense? I talked about the same thing with AI. Hey, does this response that AI gave me make sense? Because here's some stuff that I know because I wasn't able to put it all in there for AI to have. I know I wasn't able to give this all to my staff, but what does this look like? Your boss sends you to a training. You go to this 1 week training, you get all the bells and whistles, the details, and all your bosses saw was the high level summary, yet your boss is the person who measures you about whether or not you did this. And I used to be like, bro, you wasn't even in the training. How did you know? And we had this conversation in there. You wasn't even in there to adjudicate this. The person who's at the training adjudicated this thing. And so all of us walked out of this room with this one thinking. And so in this space now, and the reason why I call it the unscripting effect is because this work in this white paper now, it actually unscripts the current script. The current script is give me my coach so I can get better and I can get promoted. And now when I'm going on my promotion, somebody else will deal with whatever I didn't do in behind. And so if you only going to be focused on you, there are plenty of coaches who are just focused on you. But if part of focusing on you is I want to be a better leader, I want to improve my teams, well, bring your team in the room. Let's have this conversation together. It does not mean we can't have one-on-one conversations, because we will have one-on-one conversations together. But in the conversation with the team, I get to see from my lens what your team thinks about you when you're not in the room. So that when we do get in the room together, I kind of have a sense of what's not being said. Well, the way my immersion program is designed is to get the things not being said on the table, because as a leader, it is so important for you to get things unspoken on the table, because if you don't get it on the table, if you don't have awareness of something, you got no shot at trying to solve it. Awareness is one of the most powerful, practical tools, because without it, you're literally just flying blind. You're literally just flying blind, because you got no clue what's happening around you without that piece of awareness. And so when you step in that space of awareness, this unscripting pulls you into this place of awareness to kind of go, wait a minute, what's happening? There's a cost of translation that happens in this as well too. If I send y'all to a training and I don't go to the training, y'all got a set of languages and some depth of knowledge that I don't have. Well, now when we come together, we got a mismatch, right? The unscripting effects, it is designed to resolve that, so that even for you as an entrepreneur, if you was to read this white paper, one of the things you would start thinking about, at least I think comes out of this, is this sense of how am I developing myself, and how am I developing the people who work for me or with me? And are we developing in silos? Because if we're developing in silos, when we come together, we got some expectations that was given in those silos that the other person is unaware of. And this is why it's so important to do things together. This is why I talk about that cultivation, and why I start everything with, you got to look in yourself first. You got to get your alignment with yourself first. And then that extrapolates into the world around you. Because now the way you approach yourself with curiosity, the way you approach yourself with self-grace, the way you understand your own time and your own sort of, here's how I want to spend my time, you actually open up space for other folks to be in that same environment, to be thinking about what it is that they're doing, what it is that they got going on, and how can we bring this together for the success of both of us. And so in the unscripting effect, in this paper, while it is focused on sort of the corporate coaching sort of methodology, in its sort of written form of what it hits at its core essence, it is this sense of, are we doing this thing together, or are we doing it separately? Because every time we do it separately, we need to come together to sort of ask ourselves, are we using the same word? Is this definition? Is this how you understood this? And every time we do those points of clarification, those little pieces of cultivation, we actually are now amplifying the entire thing. And that becomes the beauty of unscripting, because unscripting has this amplified effect. It's going to require you to expand. It's going to require you to get curious. It's going to require you to be continuously asking yourself at the very basic sort of sense, which is, what is it that I'm experiencing that is rooted in my own expectations, that's rooted in my condition? And I need to ask myself this before I start grading everybody else, right? Or talking about, hey, this is all wrong, right? Folks will go somewhere, man, this thing ain't what I thought it was going to be. Well, what did you think it was going to be? And where did you get that information from? And folks don't even ask that question. Oh, I saw this thing on YouTube. Well, I understood this word to be this. So you mean you didn't ask anybody in the event about expectations, and you came in with these expectations? Now what they decided to do is all wrong because you had to say, bro, you didn't call me and I didn't design this specifically for you. So why you got all this? Because it's easy to skip my own internal work and then just talk about the external environment, right? The real work, the real time, the real effort is inside you, because that's where the scripts are. That's where your 4 seeds of cultivation reside. This is where the unscripting effect has its biggest value, and it ultimately amplifies everything else around you.
All right, thank you. I want to take a moment to check in with everyone because we're going to be wrapping up in a couple of minutes here, Nyeri. So one, if there's anything that we have left, on the table, anything that's unresolved, anything that you wanted to hear more of, this is a perfect time to step back into the mic and let us know. You can unmute, you can raise your hand. I will be sure to highlight you. Naira, here's my one final question before we get the official wrap up. For all of the entrepreneurs that are watching today, that's here live, and for those who are going to be watching this and the recording further down the line, those who say, I know my business needs to grow, but I think I may need to grow first. What are three things that they could begin working on immediately um, before they come to you to prepare? Or is it book a session, get through the session, and take the work serious?
Uh, First step is to change the statement. My business can only grow as I grow. Change the statement. That's first. Everywhere you pour into yourself, your business absolutely grows and benefits from that. No, no questions about it. That's first. Second, I meet people where they are. I don't need you to prepare to come and talk to me. The preparation to come and talk to me is you booking a session. And then the third thing is that when you get in a session, I don't need you to put on any airs of anything. I just need you to talk. Just like this whole session. There ain't no airs on this. Guys are just talking. Just if you were sitting there by real, we would have the same conversation the same way. Right? If you guys watch my commencement speech, I was up on my commencement couch, just talking in this way. I meet people where they are because I can't meet you any other place. If I tell you to come up to the 50th floor and you can't get in the building, I'm just sitting on the 50th floor. Like I got to make myself accessible. Right. And so as entrepreneurs, you have the sole responsibility to pour into you because your business does not pour into you and your customers do not pour into you. You own the full accountability for yourself. So I would say to you very clearly in all the steps, when you pour into yourself, the overflow to your business is unequivocally going to be profitable for you.
100% agree. Nair, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you if they're not a part of Sunshine? And I'm saying this, and I want to make sure for those who aren't a part. Nair is one of our service providers, our professional service providers within the Sunshine Enterprises Network. So what that means is that once you get through our 12-week Community Business Academy, which exists to teach you some of the basics for entrepreneurship, the basics of being an owner, and how to run it. I mean, if you are day one with an idea, you at least can walk out of here with an executive summary where you turned your idea and your passion into the beginnings of what we call a business plan. I work in the business acceleration services, and one of my primary roles there is to connect entrepreneurs with service providers. These are consultant coaches, um, experts who have a way of unlocking your business, and here by unlocking you to yourself, allow you and your business to grow. We work with the help desk where we can fund up to $500 for their services. So for those that are, again, you're a part of Sunshine Enterprises and you're saying, hey, I know I want to work with Nyere. I want to get on a call with him, and you can reach out to me. He does have a set of office hours. He has ways that we can get in contact. And again, we right now currently have up to 500 that we can co-invest for that time that you will have with him. For everyone else, Nair, what would be the best way for them to get in contact to book a session with you, to talk with you? I'm not sure if they're gonna make it over to sit on the couch, but what's the best way they can get with you?
Look, well, Tim and Steve owe me a time to sit on my couch. Chumps ain't came to visit me yet, but putting them two to the side. Look, at NyerereBillups.com, you're going to find booking options. But I would recommend, though, that if you're with Sunshine, take advantage of that $500, right? It just makes sense to tap into that $500 because $500 you don't got to spend. And the second thing is that if you are not finished with your 12 weeks, you still don't have to wait. You should still reach out to Glenn, and Glenn can get you a complimentary session. So if you're within Sunshine, your easy access button is to just reach out to Dr. Glenn. If you're not as a part of Sunshine and you are part of the email distribution list, just find the Growfessor at Nyerere Billups and respond directly to me. I like to build custom stuff because everybody don't have the same capacity to do all the same stuff. And so it is easier to work with me when you just reach out to me, because one of the things I'm going to say to you on that call is, what do you need from me for us to work together? And that is really putting the ball in your court to say, if you can do this, we ultimately get to decide on what that looks like. And so in that space, not hard. I'm on social media at the Growfessor Nyerere Threads. Probably don't go to Threads because I get way more ratchet in my talks on there. My book, Unscripting, is available at unscripting.com. I also have the Growfessor essays. I also have a nonprofit, the Nymoji Institute, where the 4 Seeds of Cultivation really sit at the heart of that, because I think about on a continuum, how do I get our nonprofits to work together as a collective? And that's the work that I do there. In my Growfessor essays, you will find all of my publications where I talk about meritocracy. I talk about my deconditioning model. So lots of stuff to sort of read there. I have no shortage of stuff that's out there. And one of the sort of things, if you understand sort of the business that I came from and running a portfolio, my current business is set up like that. I don't have to do anything on any given day. I can step in any lane that I need to because I know I'm the talent and this is what this is. The rest of the stuff is really sort of me sort of shaping it so that you all can sort of see yourself in it and decide, hey, I see myself in that, I should reach out. But I would say if this conversation moved you in any ways, you don't have a barrier to access me, right? Because if you reach out, I'm going to respond back, and then we go from there.
Yes, yes, thank you. And again, for those that are a part of Sunshine, and you want to reach out, because I'm answering a question now, email me at glenn@sunshineenterprises.com. Again, that's glenn@sunshineenterprises.com, and I will walk you through the process of signing up for the help desk, and getting you set up for a one-on-one so we can figure those things out as we move forward. Thank you, Dr. Maria, who has stepped in to come and witness and be a part of this as well. So shout out to you. For those who are here, I do want to take a moment to say thank you for showing up. I see many of you are, again, I talked to Tim earlier. He was like, hey, I might be at work, but I'm gonna put these earphones on and I'm gonna listen through and get there. Trevor, I see that you are on the go, you're moving around. Yes, you okay. I see you're on the go, you're moving around, but you have stayed consistent, and you make sure that you was here. So everyone who also participate, Paula, can I just also want to tell you thank you. Those who have been actively letting us know if this is a value. Kyra, Stephen, Jatan, not Totsu. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. You can please correct me. And Akia, just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to
Call her
everyone.
Tish.
Huh?
You call her Tish.
Tish. Okay, Tish. Thank you. Just take a moment to say thank you to everyone that is here. These Expert Access series, again, is created for a moment. It's a rare opportunity that you get a chance to have somewhat of a one-on-one experience with a subject matter expert, a service provider, a consultant, prior towards working with them. And so the whole idea, as part of one of the 4 seeds, is to create a genuine relationship with them. So that way you have a better idea of working relationship, of what that's going to look like. And you guys can continue to openly exchange net worth with one another as we continue to collaborate and build together. So I was very intentional about creating this program, creating these moments, and we will have many, many more. And again, I am looking forward to making another one in person. So if that is an idea that you want to like to subscribe to, please
Yep.
share that with me. Send that email over. Nair, I promise you, we can really sit up and start an actual podcast and talk for an entire day.
Whenever you're ready, man. You keep saying this, man. Whenever
I
you're
keep
ready, man,
saying
just
it,
record, bro. We can
but
just
I'm like, we gonna have to
you
sit
can call me
down and
later
get
on this
some
afternoon.
cameras
Record a session just
and
off of here.
like get it going. But we would need somebody to keep us like
That's called
on schedule.
the editing process. We just
Yeah.
talked for 2 hours.
Yep, you pre-record it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just record.
pre-record.
You know what? I do want to say this before we go because I didn't say this specifically. I'm assuming everybody on this call has been on the airplane before, and in my book you'll sort of see this, and I talk about the oxygen mask principle. When they say put your own oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else, that is an absolute fact. I describe it as an ethical act. So I see somebody put no. So on a plane, it tells you before you help somebody else, put your own oxygen mask on first. The same thing as an entrepreneur. Before you run your business, put your own oxygen mask on. Breathe for yourself first. Before you help somebody else, breathe for yourself first. It is an ethical act because nobody else can breathe for you. And nobody else is going to put their I'm not going to put your oxygen mask on for you before I put mine on for me. And that is the responsibility. And that is an ethical act, right? That is the space where you go and prevent burnout and all of this other stuff is that you remember to breathe. And we don't remember to breathe. Man, we get up, we brush our teeth, and we run straight out the door. We won't even take a minute. And then we get to our desk and get to work and then say, man, I got to take a minute for myself. Well, you can't take a minute for yourself because now everybody around the expectations of what you should be doing, you're literally right there. So create the space for yourself to make sure that if you are in a tough decision, ask yourself, in this decision, am I putting my own oxygen mask on first, or am I putting somebody else's oxygen mask on before I put my own first? That's going to give you the clarity of where you need to be at. And so that's the oxygen mask principle, but it is an ethical act, not just a flight safety procedure.
Well, with that, as we prepare to take off into our land of success, please secure your oxygen mask first. Yeah, we will be the co-pilots here and take you guys towards a unscripting experience. I do gotta close this thing out. I just again want to tell you thank you everyone. I'll be in touch pretty soon. But this will be the official end. I'm going to end the recording, which or did this record? Okay, yes. Okay, I'm about to end the recording now.